Welcome to my channel Bookish English 2. Have you ever tried to talk about your life in English, but your mind suddenly goes blank? You know your story, but the words do not come out. What if I show you a simple way to talk about your journey, step by step, with confidence, with emotion, and without fear? Stay with me because by the end, you will tell your story in English. Chapter 1. Your story already exists. You are sitting there, maybe thinking that you have nothing special to say in English, maybe feeling that your life is too simple, too normal, or not interesting enough to talk about. But the truth is something very powerful, and I want you to really feel this. You already have a story, your journey already exists inside you. You do not need to create anything new, you do not need to become someone else. You only need to learn how to express what is already there, slowly, clearly, and in your own way. Think about your life for a moment. There was a time when you did not know English at all. Maybe you felt confused, maybe you felt shy, maybe you tried to speak, but the words did not come out. That moment right there, that feeling, that struggle, is part of your story. And then something changed. Maybe you learned your first word. Maybe you understood your first sentence. Maybe you watched a video and suddenly something made sense. That is also your story. You see, your journey is not empty. It is full of small moments, small steps, small changes that matter more than you think. Many learners believe they need big vocabulary or perfect grammar to talk about their life, but that is not true at all. Your story does not need big words. It needs real words. It needs your words. You can say something as simple as, "I started learning English last year," or "I tried to speak, but I was scared," or "I learned new words every day." These are simple sentences, but they carry real meaning. They carry your experience, your effort, your emotion. And that is what makes your story powerful, not difficult vocabulary or perfect structure. Now imagine this. Two people speak English. One uses very advanced words, but there is no feeling. The other uses simple words, but speaks from the heart. Which one do you remember more? Of course, the second one. Because humans connect with emotion, not with perfection. And that means you already have everything you need to start. You have your feelings, you have your experiences, you have your journey. All you need now is the courage to say it in simple English. Sometimes the real problem is not language, the real problem is fear. You think your English is not good enough, you think people will judge you, you think your sentences are too simple. But let me tell you something very honestly. Simple English is not weak. Simple English is powerful, especially when it is real. When you say "I tried," it shows effort. When you say "I failed," it shows honesty. When you say "I learned," it shows growth. These small sentences are not small in meaning. They are the building blocks of your voice. So instead of thinking "I cannot speak," I want you to change your thinking. Start saying "I have a story, and I can tell it step by step." You do not need to say everything at once. You do not need long speeches. You just begin with one small idea. I started. Then you add a little more. I started learning English. Then a little more. I started learning English because I wanted to change my life. Do you see what is happening? Your story is coming out, slowly but clearly, and it feels natural because it is yours. And here is something very important that many learners do not realize. Your story becomes easier to tell when you accept it. When you stop thinking it is boring or not important, and you start seeing it as your personal journey, something changes inside you. You become more open, more relaxed, more willing to speak, because now you are not trying to impress anyone, you are simply sharing your truth. But here is the big question that I want you to think about, and this is very important for your growth. If your story is already inside you, if you already have all these moments, all these feelings, all these experiences, then why does it feel so hard to say it in English? Is it really because of the language, or is it because of fear, overthinking, and waiting for perfection? This question is very powerful, and in the next chapters we are going to explore it step by step, until speaking your story becomes something natural, something easy, something you can finally do with confidence. Chapter 2. Start with very simple sentences. Now that you understand your story already exists inside you, the next step is not to make it perfect, not to make it impressive, but to make it simple. This is where most learners make a mistake. They try to speak in long, complicated sentences because they think that is what good English looks like. But instead of helping them, it creates pressure, confusion, and silence. The truth is much easier and much more powerful than that. You only need very simple sentences to begin, and those simple sentences can slowly open the door to your confidence. Imagine you are standing in front of someone and you want to talk about your journey. Your mind starts racing. You try to build a perfect sentence, but suddenly everything becomes heavy. You stop. You feel stuck. Now change the way you start. Instead of trying to say everything at once, you begin with something very small and clear. You say, "I was confused." Then you pause, take a breath, and add, "I had no confidence." Then again, slowly, "I wanted to speak English." Do you feel the difference? These are not big sentences, but they are real, and more importantly, they are possible. Simple sentences give your brain space to think, and your mouth space to speak. When you use structures like I was, I had, and I wanted, you are not just learning grammar, you are building a bridge between your thoughts and your voice. These small structures are like tools in your hand. With just a few of them, you can say so much. You can talk about your past, your feelings, your goals, your struggles, and your progress. You do not need hundreds of words to begin. You need a few strong and clear ones that you can use again and again. Another important thing is how you speak, not just what you say. Many learners try to speak fast because they think speed means fluency, but in reality, speed without clarity creates more mistakes and more fear. Speaking slowly is not a weakness, it is a strength. When you slow down, you give yourself time to think, to choose your words, and to feel what you are saying. Your voice becomes calmer, your mind becomes clearer, and suddenly, speaking does not feel like a fight anymore. It feels like a process you can control. As you speak slowly and use simple sentences, something very interesting begins to happen. You stop focusing on grammar all the time. Instead of thinking, "Is this correct?" you start thinking, "Does this make sense?" This small shift changes everything. Because communication is not about perfect grammar, it is about meaning. If someone understands you, then you are already successful. And when you focus on meaning, your confidence starts to grow naturally, without force. Let me show you how this works in a real moment. You want to talk about your journey. Instead of trying to say a perfect paragraph, you say, "I was shy, I had fear, I wanted to speak, I tried every day." These sentences are simple, but they create a clear picture. The listener understands you understand yourself, and most importantly, you feel that you can do it. That feeling is the beginning of confidence. Over time, these simple sentences will start to connect. You will not even notice when it happens. One day you say, "I was shy, I had fear." Then later, you say, "I was shy, and I had fear, but I wanted to speak." Then one more step. "I was shy, and I had fear, but I wanted to speak, so I tried every day." Do you see how your English is growing, not by force, not by pressure, but naturally, step by step. This is how real fluency begins, not with big words, but with small, repeated, meaningful sentences. And here is something very important for you to remember. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are training your voice. You are building your habit. You are creating a connection between your mind and your speech. So give yourself permission to be simple. Give yourself permission to speak slowly. Give yourself permission to make small mistakes. Because every time you speak, even in a simple way, you are moving forward. Now think about this question, because it is going to change the way you see your progress. What happens when simple sentences start turning into real confidence? What happens when the thing that felt too easy becomes the thing that makes you strong? In the next chapter, you will begin to see how your beginning, your first steps, and your early struggles can become the most powerful part of your story. Chapter 3. Talk about your beginning. Every journey has a beginning, and your English journey also started at a very real moment in your life, even if you did not notice it at that time. Maybe it was the first day you opened a book, or the first time you heard someone speak English and felt confused, or even the moment you realized that you wanted to change your life. That beginning is not small, and it is not something to hide. In fact, it is one of the most powerful parts of your story, because it shows where you came from, and it gives meaning to everything you are doing now. Many learners try to talk only about their present or their goals, but they skip their beginning. And when they do that, something important is lost. Your beginning is where the emotion lives. It is where the struggle started. It is where your fear, your confusion, and your first effort appeared. When you learn to talk about that moment in simple English, you do not just speak better, you connect more deeply with your listener, and even more importantly, with yourself. You do not need complex grammar to describe your beginning. You only need clear and honest sentences that show what your life was like before. You can say, "Before, I could not understand English," or "Before, I was very shy," or "Before, I did not try to speak." These sentences are simple, but they carry a strong feeling. They show your starting point, and they help the listener see your journey clearly. You are not trying to sound perfect. You are trying to be real. Think about your own past for a moment. There was a time when English felt impossible. Maybe you listened to someone speaking and understood nothing. Maybe you read something and felt lost after the first line. Maybe you wanted to speak, but your mouth stayed closed. These moments might feel uncomfortable to remember, but they are important because they show your courage. You were there, in that difficult place, and still you decided to try. That decision is the beginning of your story. When you describe your beginning, you are not just telling facts. You are sharing feelings. You are showing your fear, your hesitation, your confusion, but also your desire to improve. You can say, "Before, I was scared to speak. I thought my English was bad. I did not believe in myself." These sentences are not perfect, but they are powerful because they are honest. And honesty creates connection. When someone hears your story, they may think, "This is me. I feel the same." That is the moment your words become meaningful. There is also something very important that happens inside you when you talk about your beginning. You start to see your growth more clearly. When you say, "Before, I could not speak," you automatically compare it with your present, even if your English is still not perfect. You realize that you have moved forward. You realize that you are not the same person anymore. And that realization builds confidence in a very natural and quiet way. Many learners avoid talking about their past because they feel embarrassed. But what if your struggles are not something to hide, but something to be proud of? What if the moments when you felt weak are actually the moments that made you stronger? When you change your perspective like this, your beginning becomes a source of power, not a source of fear. You start to speak about it more openly, more freely, and your English becomes more expressive without you even trying too hard. As you practice, you will notice that describing your beginning becomes easier. At first, you may only say one or two sentences. Then slowly, you add more details. You start to explain what you felt, what you did, what you wanted. Your sentences begin to connect, and your story starts to flow. Not perfectly, but naturally. And that is exactly what you need at this stage. Now I want you to pause and think about something very important. Your beginning is powerful. It is full of emotion, full of truth, full of meaning. But most learners never talk about it. They skip it. They hide it. They ignore it. Why? Why do we avoid the very part of our story that makes everything else meaningful? In the next chapter, you will discover something surprising about your struggles and how the parts you try to hide can actually become your greatest strength. Chapter 4: Share your struggles without fear. There is a moment in every learning journey where you feel like hiding. You remember your mistakes, the times you spoke wrong, the times people did not understand you, and instead of seeing these moments as part of growth, you start thinking that they are something to be ashamed of. This is where many learners stop moving forward, not because they cannot learn, but because they are afraid to show their real experience. But here is the truth that can completely change your mindset. It is okay to talk about your struggles. It is okay to talk about your problems. In fact, it is necessary if you want your English to become real and powerful. When you share your struggles, you are not showing weakness. You are showing honesty, and honesty creates connection. Think about it for a moment. When you hear someone say, "I was scared to speak," or "I made many mistakes," you do not think they are weak. You feel closer to them. You understand them. You trust them more. The same thing happens when you speak. When you allow yourself to say, "I was confused," or "I did not understand anything," you open the door to real communication. You stop pretending, and you start expressing. Many learners try to sound perfect, and because of that, they become silent. They wait for the right words, the perfect grammar, the correct sentence, but that perfect moment never comes. Instead, what if you choose a different path? What if you say, "I was scared," even if your pronunciation is not perfect? What if you say, "I made mistakes," even if your sentence is simple? Suddenly, speaking becomes lighter. It becomes possible, because now you are not chasing perfection. You are sharing your reality. Your struggles are not something separate from your journey. They are the center of it. Every time you felt confused, every time you forgot a word, every time you stopped in the middle of a sentence, those moments were not failures. They were steps. They were part of your progress. Without them, there would be no learning. Without them, there would be no improvement. So when you talk about your struggles, you are actually telling the most important part of your story. You can start with very simple sentences, just like before, but now your sentences carry deeper emotion. You can say, "I was scared to speak in front of people," or "I made many mistakes when I started," or "I did not understand English videos." These sentences are not complicated, but they are strong. They show your experience. They show your effort. And they show your courage, because it takes courage to speak about what was difficult for you. There is also something powerful that happens inside you when you speak about your struggles. You stop running away from them. You stop feeling controlled by them. Instead, you start owning them. You begin to see that these moments are not bigger than you. They are part of you, but they do not define your limit. They show your starting point, not your ending. And this shift changes your confidence in a very deep way. Another important thing is that your struggles make your story human. Without them, your story feels empty. Imagine telling your journey without any difficulty, without any mistake, without any fear. It would not feel real. It would not feel relatable. But when you include your struggles, your story becomes alive. It becomes something people can feel, something people can connect with, something people can learn from. And here is something that most learners do not realize at first. When you speak about your struggles again and again, they lose their power over you. The fear becomes smaller. The shame disappears. The hesitation slowly fades away. Because now, these moments are no longer hidden. They are expressed. They are understood. They are accepted. So instead of trying to hide your mistakes, bring them into your story. Instead of thinking, I should not say this, start thinking, this is part of my journey. Speak about your fear. Speak about your confusion. Speak about the times you felt stuck. Not in a complicated way, but in a simple, honest way. And with every sentence, you will feel a little lighter, a little stronger, a little more confident. Now take a moment and think about this question, because it can completely change how you see your learning journey. What if your mistakes are actually the most important part of your story? What if the things you are trying to hide are the exact things that will help you grow, connect, and speak freely? In the next chapter, you will begin to see how even the smallest progress can create a big shift in your confidence. Chapter 5. Describe your small wins. There is a quiet moment in every learning journey that many people do not notice, and because they do not notice it, they also do not celebrate it. This moment is not big, it is not loud, and it does not look like success from the outside. But inside, something has changed. It is the moment when you understand one sentence without help, or when you say one line in English without stopping, or when you recognize a word you learned yesterday. These are your small wins, and even though they look simple, they carry a powerful energy that can slowly transform your confidence. Many learners wait for a big result before they feel proud. They think they will be happy only when they speak fluently, or when they understand everything, or when people say their English is perfect. But this way of thinking creates a long wait, and during that wait, motivation becomes weak. What if instead of waiting for a big success, you start seeing the small moments as real progress? What if you allow yourself to say, this matters, even for something that feels very small? That shift can completely change your journey. Think about your first success in English. It may not look important now, but it was important when it happened. Maybe one day you spoke a sentence, even if it was simple, and you felt something different inside you. You can say, one day, I spoke in English, and even that one sentence carries a memory, a feeling, a step forward. Or maybe you were watching something, and suddenly you understood a line without subtitles. You can say, I understood, and that small sentence shows a big change in your ability. When you begin to talk about your small wins, you start building a new relationship with your progress. Instead of focusing on what you cannot do, you begin to see what you can do. You shift your attention from lack to growth. And this is very important, because confidence does not come from perfection. Confidence comes from noticing progress, even when it is slow, even when it is small, even when it is not perfect. You can describe your small wins in very simple English, just like you have been learning. You can say, I spoke with my friend, or I understood a video, or I learned new words, and each of these sentences adds a new layer to your story. These are not just sentences, They are proof that you are moving forward. They are evidence that your effort is working. And when you say them out loud, you remind yourself that you are not stuck, even if it sometimes feels that way. There is also a deeper emotional change that happens when you start recognizing your small wins. You begin to feel proud of yourself, not in a loud or arrogant way, but in a quiet and steady way. You feel that you are improving. You feel that your time and effort have value. And this feeling creates motivation that is stronger and more stable than any outside encouragement, because now your motivation comes from inside you. Another important thing is that small wins create momentum. When you notice one small success, you feel a little more confident to try again. When you try again, you create another small success. And slowly, these small moments connect and grow into something bigger. What started as one sentence becomes two, then three, then a full idea. What started as understanding one word becomes understanding a full sentence, then a conversation. This is how real progress works. Not in one big jump, but in many small steps. Sometimes you may feel that your progress is too slow, and you may compare yourself with others who seem better or faster. But remember this: you do not see their full journey. You only see their current level. Your journey is yours, and every small win you have is real and valuable. When you respect your own progress, you stop feeling behind, and you start feeling in control of your path. So I want you to start doing something simple but powerful. Every day, find one small win and speak about it in English. It can be something very simple, like today I understood a sentence, or today I spoke without fear, or even today I tried again. These sentences may look small, but they are building something inside you that is much bigger than you realize. Now think about this question, and really feel it, because it connects everything you are learning right now. These small wins that you are starting to notice, that you are starting to speak about, can they really change your confidence completely? In the next chapter, you will begin to see how your present self, the person you are becoming right now, is already stronger than you think. Chapter 6. Speak about your present self. There comes a moment in your journey when you stop looking only at your past, and you begin to notice who you are right now. And this moment is more important than most learners realize, because it shows you that change is already happening, even if it feels slow, even if it feels incomplete. You are not the same person who could not understand anything. You are not the same person who stayed silent all the time. Something inside you has shifted, and now it is time to give that change a voice by speaking about your present self in simple and clear English. When you talk about your present, you are not just describing your current level, you are recognizing your growth. You are telling yourself, I have moved forward, and that message is very powerful. You can start with simple sentences like, now I can speak a little, or now I understand more, or now I feel more confident. These sentences may look small, but they carry a deep meaning because they show progress. They show that your effort is working. They show that you are changing step by step. Many learners stay stuck because they keep thinking about what they still cannot do, and they forget to see what they can already do. This creates a feeling of being behind, a feeling of not being good enough, even when real progress is happening. But when you begin to speak about your present self, you change your focus. You start to see your improvement clearly, and this clarity builds confidence in a very natural way. You are no longer guessing if you are improving. You are seeing it, feeling it, and expressing it. One of the most powerful ways to speak about your present is to compare it with your past. not in a negative way, but in a reflective and honest way. You can say, before, I was scared to speak, but now I try. Or, before, I did not understand anything, but now I understand simple English. These sentences create a clear contrast. They show your journey in one line, and when you say them, you begin to realize how far you have already come, even if your goal still feels far away. There is also something emotional that happens when you speak about your present self. You begin to feel proud, not because you are perfect, but because you are growing. You begin to trust yourself more, because you can see that your actions are creating results. This feeling is quiet but strong, and it gives you the energy to continue, even on days when learning feels difficult. You are no longer starting from zero, you are building on something real. As you practice this, you will notice that your sentences become more connected and more natural. You may start with something simple like, now I can speak, and then you add a little more, now I can speak a little English, and then again, now I can speak a little English, and I feel better. Step by step, your voice becomes clearer, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it to grow naturally. This is how real fluency begins, not from perfection, but from awareness and consistency. Another important thing is that your present self is not your final version. It is a moment in your journey, a stage where you are still learning, still improving, still discovering your ability. So when you speak about your present, do not feel limited by it. Instead, see it as proof that change is possible. If you have improved this much already, then you can continue to grow. And this belief creates a strong foundation for your future. Sometimes you may still feel unsure, and that is normal. Growth is not always clear every day, and progress is not always easy to see. But when you speak about your present regularly, you train your mind to notice improvement, even in small ways. You begin to recognize that you are no longer the same person, and that recognition gives you a quiet confidence that cannot be taken away easily. So I want you to start doing something simple but powerful. Speak about your present self every day, even if it is just 1 or 2 sentences. Say, now I understand more, or now I try to speak, or now I feel less afraid. These sentences will slowly change how you see yourself, and when your self-image changes, your behavior changes too. You become more open, more willing, more ready to speak. Now think about this carefully, because this is where something important begins to happen inside you. When you see your growth clearly, when you finally recognize that you are not the same person anymore, something powerful happens inside you. Your confidence does not feel forced anymore, it feels real. And in the next chapter, you will take this feeling even further as you begin to speak about your future and the person you are becoming. Chapter 7. Imagine your future. In English, there is something very special that happens when you stop looking only at your past and present, and you begin to imagine your future, not as a dream that feels far away, but as something that is slowly becoming possible. Until now, you have talked about where you started and where you are today, and that already shows growth. But your journey does not end here. Your story is still moving forward, and when you start speaking about your future in English, you give direction to that movement, you give shape to your dreams, and you create a feeling of hope that can push you even on the hardest days. Many learners feel stuck because they only focus on their current level, and when they see that they are not perfect yet, they lose motivation. But what if you change your focus for a moment and start thinking about where you are going? What if instead of saying, "My English is not good," you begin to say, "I will speak better," or "I will understand more"? or I will travel and use English. These sentences are simple, but they carry a powerful energy because they are not about limitation, they are about possibility. When you speak about your future, you are not just making sentences, you are building belief. You are telling your mind that improvement is coming, that growth is continuing, that your effort will lead somewhere meaningful. And this belief is very important, because without it, learning feels heavy and slow. But with it, even small steps feel exciting, because you know they are taking you towards something bigger. You can start with very easy and clear sentences, just like you have been doing from the beginning. You can say, I will speak English confidently, or I will understand movies, or I will talk to people from different countries. These sentences are not complicated, but they are full of vision. They show what you want, and when you say them again and again, they begin to feel more real inside you. Try to imagine your future as clearly as you can. See yourself speaking without fear, answering questions naturally, smiling because you understand, and you are understood. Imagine yourself traveling, asking for directions, having conversations, feeling comfortable instead of nervous. Imagine yourself watching a video or listening to a podcast and understanding it without effort. These images are not just dreams, they are possible outcomes of your daily practice. And here is something very interesting that many learners do not notice. When you speak about your future, your behavior in the present begins to change. You become more willing to practice, more patient with yourself, more focused on improvement. Because now you are not just learning randomly, you are moving toward a clear goal. Your actions start to match your vision, and that creates progress that feels more meaningful. It is also important to understand that your future does not need to be perfect to be powerful. You do not need to imagine yourself speaking like a native speaker or knowing every word. You only need to imagine yourself improving, step by step, becoming more comfortable, more confident, more free. This kind of future is realistic, and because it feels reachable, it motivates you more. Sometimes doubt may come into your mind. You may think, what if I cannot do it? Or, what if I stay at the same level? But instead of fighting these thoughts, you gently return to your simple future sentences. You say, I will improve, even if you are not fully sure. You say, I will keep going, even if it feels difficult. These sentences become like quiet promises to yourself, and over time, they build a strong inner belief. As you continue, your future sentences will grow just like your past and present sentences did. You may start with, I will speak, then, I will speak English confidently, then, I will speak English confidently, and help others learn. Do you see how your vision expands? This is how your story continues to grow, not only in language, but in meaning. So I want you to start speaking about your future every day, even if it is just a few sentences. Say what you want. Say what you hope. Say what you believe can happen. Let your words carry your dreams, even if they are simple, even if they are not perfect. Because when you speak your future, you are not just describing it, you are slowly creating it. Now think about this question, and let it stay with you for a moment. What if speaking about your future makes it more real? What if the simple sentences you say today become the reality you live tomorrow? In the next chapter, everything you have learned will come together, and you will finally speak your full story, from your past to your future, in your own voice. Chapter 8. Your Full Story. From Silence to Voice. This is the moment where everything you have been building finally comes together, not in a perfect way, not in a polished or advanced way, but in a real and powerful way that belongs to you. Until now, You have learned how to talk about your beginning, how to share your struggles, how to notice your small wins, how to describe your present, and how to imagine your future. Now, instead of keeping these parts separate, you bring them together and speak your full story in English. From silence to voice, from fear to expression, from doubt to confidence. At first, this may feel a little overwhelming, because your mind might still try to control everything, trying to make every sentence correct, trying to avoid mistakes, trying to sound better than you feel. But this is not the goal anymore. The goal now is flow. The goal is expression. The goal is to allow your story to come out, even if it is not perfect, even if you pause, even if you repeat some words. Because what matters now is that you are speaking, that you are connecting your thoughts, and that you are finally using your voice. You can begin your full story in a very simple and natural way, just like you practiced before. You might say, "Before, I could not speak English. I was scared and confused. I made many mistakes." Then you continue, "But I tried every day. I learned new words. I started to understand." And then you move forward. "Now I can speak a little. I feel more confident. I am not so afraid." And finally, you look ahead. "I will keep learning. I will speak better. I will use English in my life." These sentences are simple, but when you connect them, they create something powerful. They create your story. As you speak like this, something important begins to happen inside you. You stop thinking of English as a subject you study, and you start feeling it as a tool you use. Your focus shifts from correctness to communication. You are no longer asking, "Is this perfect?" You are asking, "Can I express myself?" And when that shift happens, your confidence grows in a way that feels natural and strong, not forced or temporary. There will still be moments where you hesitate, where you forget a word, where your sentence does not come out the way you wanted. But instead of stopping, you keep going. You use the words you know. You simplify your sentence. You repeat your idea in a different way. This is not a mistake. This is real communication. Even native speakers do this. So give yourself permission to continue, even when it feels imperfect, because that is where your real progress lives. Another powerful thing about speaking your full story is that you begin to hear yourself differently. You hear your own voice in English, not as something weak or broken, but as something growing, something improving, something alive. You begin to recognize that you are no longer silent. You are no longer just thinking in your head. You are expressing. And that realization can create a deep emotional shift, because it shows you that change is not something far away, it is already happening. When you connect your past, your struggles, your progress, and your future in one flow, you also create meaning. Your journey stops feeling random, and it starts feeling like a path. You can see how each step led to the next, how each mistake helped you learn, how each small win built your confidence. And when your journey has meaning, your motivation becomes stronger, because now you understand why you are doing this and where you are going. So do not wait for the perfect moment to speak your story. Do not wait until your English feels complete, because that moment may never come. Instead, speak now, with what you have, with the words you know, with the voice you are building. Let your story be simple, let it be honest, let it be real, because that is more than enough. And now I want you to feel this question, not just think about it, but really feel it inside you. This is the moment you have been moving toward from the very beginning. Can you finally speak your story without fear? Even if your voice shakes a little, even if your sentences are simple, can you allow yourself to be heard? Because the moment you say yes to that, even in a small way, is the moment your silence begins to turn into a strong and confident voice. If this video helped you feel more confident, then start today. Speak your story, even if it is simple. You do not need perfect English, you just need to begin. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what is your story? I would love to hear it.